Graham, has there ever been a more eventful night in Cage Warriors history than what we had tonight? We had just about everything, didn't we?
Yeah, I think we've had underdogs win, we've had champions lose belts, we've had bloodbaths, we've had fights called off because of bloodbaths. I don't think you could have put any more narrative into the ending of the Night of Champions live at the Apollo tonight.
Are you, oh sorry, I was just going to say, are you happy, under the circumstances, are you satisfied with how it was handled, the main event, and the fact it was finished the way it was? Because it was becoming a little bit farcical.
Yeah, it was getting to a stage where the guys just couldn't compete.
Yeah.
You know, they were trying to get their footing to throw punches, they were slipping, they were just bleeding more and more and more. It was, Mark caught me in, he was looking for me cage side, I jumped in, he's like, look, it's got to stop, and I'm with you. Just stop the fight, call it, they can do it again. You know, live to fight another day, you know, it's, those guys took holds over each other. And I would be happy for the UFC to do that rematch with both. It's fair, I think both deserve it. You know, Nicholas is putting a warrior story in his career. Ross is still unbeaten. They put on a show tonight for millions. And I think for the first time in the history of Cage Warriors since my reign, we've had a fight stop because of there's just too much blood, I just couldn't compete. So
yeah, Graham?
Yeah.
So you've been in charge now in presidency for about 4 or 5 years. Through the last 18 months we've had the 3 biggest Cage Warriors cards ever, plus the amateur tournament, the Grand Prix. What can you do next? Because it seems every time you do something, it's just elevated to the next level, just 2 minutes later.
We'll find something, don't worry, we'll step it up. I think next step for you guys is we're going to give you a one-night tournament. We've got a belt to sort out. I think pretty soon, we're working on it. I think pretty soon we're going to have a 4-man one-night tournament for that belt.
We also saw that during the week there was a bit of a Twitter spat between yourself and a certain Irish coach. That hasn't put a damper on the team, and that has it for you?
Not at all, not in the slightest. It's all a bit of fun for me.
You were just saying you're happy to see Dalby have the rematch up in Copenhagen for UFC. How do you feel? You know, you're producing some of the best fighters that the world's ever seen coming from this organisation. You know, how does it feel? What number are we up to now? Are we getting up to nearly 100 fighters moving over?
Yeah, we're getting close to that number. We embrace what we do. You know, we've built an organisation and a platform which is kind of, guys can't go from community halls going 4-5-0 and go straight into the UFC without fighting on some kind of show in between. And we're that show in between. We give them the same size octagon, we give them the same lights, the same cameras, we give them a decent enough crowd, they're treated professionally backstage, they've got the hand wrappers, they've got the cotton, they've got schedules they got to adhere to, they've got the VTs. The only difference is the size of the crowd. So it's kind of community hall, 500 people, a hall that's just not even lit with no rig. Cage Warriors, similar to the UFC without the mass numbers, UFC. So we're happy what we do, we embrace what we do, and we're happy to put more in there.
Fantastic, thank you.
Graham, could you give me your thoughts on the James Webb fight and the decision?
Yeah. I'm talking Matthias Frederick is super strong. He made some reversals and got out of some positions that James Webb had him in that were mind-blowing. His strength is phenomenal. The fact that it was a draw, I was surprised that when I was standing in cage, he says a draw.
Who did you think won?
I thought James might have edged it. I didn't think by much, but I thought he might have edged it. He had a lot of
Especially
top
with the point
positions.
deduction.
Yeah, I know he had a lot of top positions. He had a point deduction there as well. So I thought he might have edged it. When they said it was a draw, then you know it's another rematch we have to make. So we'll see
when
what
do you
goes.
see the rematch happening?
I don't know. We'll take a couple of days off and then we'll talk to the guys and see what they're at.
Who do you think's the biggest winner from tonight?
That's Mikakis.
Yeah?
Yeah. No one gave him a chance. No, everyone thought Martin Hamlet would run through him. The first round of that fight showed Modescus was in there to take that belt. He didn't want to give it up too easy. It's the biggest fight of his life. And he took on a talent of the wrestling pedigree, Martin Hamlet. Everyone has Martin tipped to be in the UFC. I'm hoping I go. And for Medeskis to take that win, I think that's the biggest win tonight. And Joy Harbour. Those two they'd be the top two of who were the biggest wins. Two guys who, on paper, shouldn't have won, and they did. So
Great.
sorry.
I was just to say, you talk about what's next for Cage Warriors. You mentioned the one-night tournament. We spoke in the lead up to the event and talked about out-of-the-box thinking and doing different things. We didn't catch it on the feed upstairs because the feed was cut, but I understand you mentioned there's going to be an invite-only show on September the 1st.
6.
September 6th. I was giving the wrong information.
Yeah,
could that be along the lines of what we discussed in the interview, where you could be heading over to the Apex in Las Vegas and holding something there?
That's a little bit down the line. But it'll be London.
It'd be London.
It'll be a London show.
Yeah.
We're putting the card together at the moment. We just finalised everything. We've got a few documents to sign. And there'll be 450, maybe 500 strong invite-only event at the start.
What's the thinking behind that? Because obviously, normally it's a spectator sport, isn't it? And it's about pulling the fans in and generating an atmosphere. It's the whole package. It's what's going on in the cage and the atmosphere outside the cage. With an invited crowd, it's likely to be quite a different vibe. But obviously, there's a theory behind it. So what's the theory?
The theory behind it is we don't want to have a roster of fighters and not be able to keep them busy. And venue availability for the last quarter of the year is very, very slim. So there weren't any venues that we could have grabbed hold of that would have made sense for us to go into. So we thought, we've got a roster of X amount of fighters. If we don't get another show in the last quarter, there's going to be a lot of guys sitting idle. And that's not what I want to do. I don't want to sign guys to the organisation, promise that I'm going to build them, and then not be able to give them fights. It's not us. So we've gone out of our way to invest into something that's going to give us a decent size TV show, which gets us at least 16 of the guys an outing, a fight, and keeps the roster active. I don't want a roster of a lot of guys sitting there screaming, I've signed you, I'm not getting a fight. It's my job to keep them busy, and if that means doing a compact show where we build it up and make it big for TV, and our broadcasters and our broadcast partners around the world, then that's what we're going to do.
You said this week that you know your place, like in the combat sports world, as like a building platform for these fighters to, give them the spotlight, turn them into stars, and then they go on and become bigger stars elsewhere. Do you think with a card like tonight, where there's obviously going to be a lot of media eyes now who weren't in attendance, there's going to be a lot of attention on the performances and the spectacle of the whole thing, do you think that the image of Cage Warriors might change down the line, or are you still happy to provide that, nurturing, building platform for the fighters?
We're happy to. Like I said, there's no in between. You can't take a guy from a community hall fighting in front of 300 of his fans, and then stick him into a 20,000 seat arena, live TV, and expect them to run at it. They're going to freeze. The light's going to get them. So there's got to be somewhere in the middle. There's got to be a step up and a gradual, organic step up for these guys to develop to become future stars. Otherwise, they go from that community hall, they go to the arena, and before you know it, their career's over.
Too fast.
They're not going back at all. So having that time to develop, we feel is our niche to develop these guys and get them to where they need to be.
Yeah.
You know, when you talk about the one-day tournament, will that be for the bantamweight belt?
Tell us.
When you guys leave, we'll throw away down to that. Must be. Yeah, be for the bantamweight belt.
Any names flying around flying head, or is it still too soon to say?
There's names. There's names flying. The only problem is the names that are flying haven't been spoken to yet. So, like I said, we'll take Monday, maybe Tuesday morning off. We'll have a gathering on Tuesday afternoon at Cage Warriors HQ, and then we'll talk about that. But we'll look to speak to those people this week who we believe will go into that. We haven't done a one-night tournament for a while, so I'm kind of 50-50 on one-night tournaments. I like the excitement of them, but 9 times out of 10, the guy that would have won the belt on a normal title shot probably won't win it on a tournament, because if you have an injury in the first fight, the reserve gets called in, and then somebody comes out as the knight in shining armor, and the guy that probably wouldn't have ever got to that would be a champion. So it brings an added excitement and element to it.
How many rounds will they be?
We'll probably do what we did before, so there'll be 2 rounds. If it's a draw after the 2, then there'll be a third. But if there's a decision on 2, then probably.
I wonder if you had a word about Mark Goddard. You know, we don't have an official regulatory body here in the UK, so you have to self-regulate, so the staff you have is super important. Mark had a pretty busy day tonight, a very busy night. How important is it for a promotion league to have a senior referee like that handling those occasions and being a senior figure in there when you need it? Because you know it's a pretty unusual set of circumstances as well. With the James Webb fight, we had the issue of spike or no spike, and then there was one that was obviously definitely a spike afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
Then we had the main event with all the blood and everything. So how valuable is it to have someone like Mark Goddard who you can call upon for these shows?
It's something you have to have. You know, any organisation or smaller shows that are doing events is wanting to help the sport grow and to bring people in who want to be referees or who want to be cutmen and let them shadow and slowly release them into live action. But to have the likes of Mark, Rich and Leon, all UFC caliber reps, it's something that I've had implemented from the very beginning back in 2010. We've taken a few people in where we've progressed them through as referees, but we've always had a senior ref on Cage Warriors. And I've said from the beginning, back in 2010, with my staff, we always look to have somebody linked to the bigger show on our staff to help with those decisions, because there were people coming to me tonight about some of these decisions, and I was like, I want to talk to my guy, he's the man. There's still things I've got to be corrected on. You know, and I don't think anybody in this room knows everything about any detail of the sport. There are things that you would kind of scratch your head on or question yourself. So to have that knowledge is something that I should get the organisation to have.
Graham, so obviously tonight we sort of, we found out that there's the one-day tournament. We also know that there's Liverpool, Birmingham, Cardiff all set up. I know there was a Q&A session on the Cage Warriors Instagram page. Someone asked about what shows we're going to get. I think you hinted at Sweden and in a couple of places as well. We're going to get a full calendar sort of soon released.
Yeah, like I said, there's 2 shows that we've confirmed. The Sweden one will be happening, and the England one will be happening. And I think that may finalise the rest of the year. Maybe one more, but we're still working on the details. The logistics of putting all this together, fighter availability, injuries, trying to schedule in title fights, people not available. So all the pieces of the puzzle have got to kind of fall into place. It's not an easy task, but so far it's working okay. So yeah, we should have Sweden confirmed and an announcement about both those shows coming soon.
Okay. We also saw that unfortunately Ian Gary's fight got sort of canned due to an opponent failing to make medical. He wants to be rebooked for Liverpool. When I spoke to him, is that going to be against Teo again, or is that going to be against a new opponent?
We're working on it. We'll see where it goes.
Okay, and what do you think of Sam Creasy's performance and what's next for him? That's 2 failed title bids now.
Yeah.
Where does he go from here?
Tough show for Sam. I don't know. We'll have to have a chat with Sam and see what Sam wants to do. That's his decision at the end of the day. We go back and have a few more fights against a few more Europeans. That 125 division is very slim in the UK, and Sam's going to beat everybody up that's there. So we'll see what he wants to do. We're just going to let him digest and get his feelings on everything, and we'll speak to him Wednesday or Thursday. I usually give the guys 3 or 4 days to let the emotions wear off and talk into form.
Great. Good night. French fighters tonight. 3 wins out of 3 from Morgan Charrier, Lahore, and of course Samir fighting your new Cage Warriors flyweight champion. Big news coming out of France this week. The sport's going to be legal in January of next year. Is that something that you're looking to set up? And if so, how long do you reckon the timeline is before you actually manage to get something sorted?
We'll be very excellent. We'll do it straight away. We're already on it.
That's what I'd like to hear.
We're already on it. It's already in the framework. We've already spoken with venues. We're on it, and we'll be there in the first quarter.
How excited are you for it?
Very. We like going into new markets. If you look at the events over the past 10 years, I got accused of having a dartboard of the countries around the dartboard, and I close my eyes and throw the dart and see where it lands and we go. The dartboard doesn't exist. You go to places strategically and France is on our list. We've already got the framework in place.
Can you give me your thoughts really quickly on the flyweight division in general? Obviously, we've seen in the UFC it's being bandied all over the place. We think it might be safe, but we're not entirely sure. Scott Coker has said that Bellator aren't particularly interested in doing one. How do you see it progressing now in terms of the general MMA industry?
It's a tough one. I mean, you can't build divisions unless there's people there to build divisions on. And it's hard to build a division when you've got maybe one guy who's, I don't know, he's at 15 odd fights and the rest of the division are back at 2s and 3s making debuts and stuff. So I don't know where it's going to go globally, but I know in Europe it's very, very slim pickings.
Do you think in general it would be a safe advice to say to fighters that maybe you should consider moving up?
Yeah, the problem is a lot of these guys are not 135ers either. I think on the Cage Warriors roster, a lot of them that we have, the 125ers could easily compete at 125 or 135 in Europe. We need to do a bit of digging to see what's left of that 125 division.
Sure.
Alabama Singer won tonight, 125, but no, who's left him to fight?
Yeah.
You know? So we'll see. We'll have to do some digging and see what goes. Good? Yeah. Thanks for coming,
Thank you
guys.
very much.
Enjoy